Buddha taught the end to specific suffering caused by ignorance. This is described in the Four Noble Truths. There isn't a fifth noble truth, but since the Four Noble Truths were created, humans have fetishized the idea of an enlightened state, thus creating and arguing about a fifth noble truth. The problem of suffering requires a cessation of suffering. No more. No less. It does not require addition. Mind can create all sorts of interesting states post-enlightenment, and arguing about which is true enlightenment is pointless and silly. The fourth noble truth is the cessation of suffering that is caused by ignorance. Buddha taught what that particular suffering is, its cause, how to reduce it and how to cease it completely. Without that suffering, born from ignorance, everything still goes on, but fear ceases and contentment is naturally the state. There are many idealized beliefs regarding awakening, but they all seem religious myth. It's a big topic, but Zen teaches, before enlightenment chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment chop wood, carry water. There is also the experience of everything just being made up by people. Success, failure, dogma, ritual, rules, countries, ownership, all are merely constructs of the mind and nothing more than that. They are taken with a pinch of salt. There is also living with the recognition that everything is dreamlike and mere appearance. Including self. Nobody to get enlightened and nobody to be saved from suffering. The appearance of everything plays out and is watched by still unchanging consciousness that is free from needs, agenda, gender. In fact, it's free from everything. It has no stake in the world it appears. Personality still plays out, but not as before. There isn't the sense of a me behind the eyes. No underlying mood. Yet there are still tendencies and habits. Just prior to enlightenment, there are still triggers and tendencies that can arise from past events, habits. There isn't some sudden perfect person who never says or does anything that upsets anyone. There are still traits and tendencies. The interest in external things diminishes. The desire to just sit in contentment is there. But if it can't be done, there isn't frustration. There isn't that feeling of taking things personally. There is effortless constant mindfulness. But that doesn't mean wallets and keys don't get forgotten. The mind is just mindfully elsewhere sometimes. Enlightened experiences vary depending on the route to it. Some people have bliss, some don't. Some people develop strong clairvoyance, some don't. Profound teachings that can for most appear baffling become blatantly obvious and so simple. They are just a explanation of how things really are. Which is very straightforward. The mind doesn't go into the past and future out of avoidance of the present because the present is not unpleasant. It stays in the present without effort. Apologizing is effortless as there's nobody to defend. I do not have full enlightenment. It came and went and is now very close to being back. My writing above is from personal experience. I still have some days where a bit of anger arises. Maybe once a week, once a month. When things do now arise, they are usually big stuff, as it's the last fragments of deep feelings left to clear out. What ceases is a specific grasping at a reality that doesn't exist. It causes us anxiety in our heart constantly, but we never recognize it, like the fish not recognizing the water. I have become more outspoken as I have no fear and therefore consider I have an obligation to speak out about things that are cruel, unjust, etc. Not everyone does that, and I appreciate the paradox that there's nobody to support. A lot of funny things happen when you realize that everything fits together. The days are still different for me. There's not one experience that has remained for a long time. My perception of the world shifts in ways that might sound drug trippy. I spent one day noticing everyone's screams. It's not like I really saw them screaming or heard the sound, but I felt what it would have been like if they were screaming. The few I talked to about it shared their experience of having a strong frustration at the time. I hear people screaming all the time now, but I'm used to it. The world is full of screaming. I spent another 2 days as though I were in a nothing room. A black space, but not black because black is something. Nothing. And on the non-existent wall of my nothing room was a 2D poster of the world. I knew that this poster was the world that everyone around me knew it to be. I navigated it. I went mountain biking. I had business meetings. I went out to dinner. All the while seeing the world through the poster. It wasn't scary. It was not something I experienced before, but it seemed okay. Early on, I spent 3 weeks thinking that I was bored. My anxieties were gone. I didn't understand that peaceful existence is empty of the excitements, fears, pressures that seemingly come from all directions. Everything seemed easy and I wasn't sure what to do about that. After 3 weeks I found myself complaining that I was bored, and in that complaint, I saw clearly how I wasn't bored, I was in peace. Those who know me well can see this boredom piece in me. They say I don't seem as happy as I used to be. Emotions come and go like weather for me now. I feel them, but they aren't all happy. Happiness comes and goes just like anger comes and goes. Peace is behind it all, like the blackness of space peppered with stars. I'm left with one compulsion that creeps in daily. I still want to share this experience of the world with others. People tell me their problems and I'm eager to pave their exit from the pain experience. Sometimes I give into this compulsion and I quickly feel how it creates a separation from the everything. When I feel that tear of separation, I remember to stop and be. It's the trying that makes up the illusion of separation.